Identifying your triggers. What is a trigger? Triggers are the things that lead to cravings, which can lead to urges. Means I want to, and then I need to. They may be your emotions, something you've done, or doing, or want to do, a time of day, a week, or year. Something you touch, hear, see, smell, or taste, or anything else that leads to an urge. Each of us has our own triggers. They're not an excuse to use, and they are not unpredictable. Addictive behavior teaches your brain to associate some things with the pleasure or relief you feel when indulging in the addictive behavior of choice. Even when you stop, your brain will be reminded about the addictive behavior when you encounter your triggers or allow yourself to conjure up triggers. Your brain can unlearn this thinking reaction to a trigger, I want to. These reactions may last a while, but will eventually decrease to be the briefest millisecond of your unhelpful thoughts. As humans, brief, ridiculous, and unhelpful thoughts come into our head all the time about things we quickly dismiss for what they are, silly thoughts, and no more. The more serious urges I need to usually subside in a few days, weeks, or even months. To identify your triggers, think about a substance or a behavior that stimulates your senses: sight, smell, hearing, taste, and touch. In figure number 4.1 in the handbook, you're going to make a list in a few minutes. You may not be aware of how many there are. How many can you identify? Be honest and list them all, even if they seem insignificant. Here are some examples of triggers. For example, heroin, seeing needles and drug paraphernalia, sex, provocative ads, perfume, certain hairstyles, cocaine, any white powders in tinfoil, food, grocery shopping, potluck dinners, certain aromas, alcohol, ads, Netflix shows, sounds that cans are opening, certain times of day, gambling, lottery ads, seeing scratch games in stores, football pools, marijuana, certain music, skate parks, seeing rolling papers in store, smoking, after meals, smelling a cigarette smoke, stress, coffee, or alcohol. So some of the trigger risks is unpleasant emotions, means anger, frustration, grief, etc. And then you rate them from 1 to 10. Pleasant emotions means joy, peace, anticipation, etc. And again, rate it from 1 to 10. Unpleasant physical sensations means pain, cold, heat, etc. And then again, rate it from 1 to 10. Stress, peer pressure, work issues, general fear, financial concerns, etc. And then again, rate it from 1 to 10. Conflict with others, spouse, coworker, boss, children, parents. And then again, rate it from 1 to 10. Physical means place or time, restaurant, park, with friends, car, work, summer, evening, etc. And then again, rate it from 1 to 10. Okay, here's the trigger worksheet example. I'm going to put down alcohol, then a fight with a spouse, then rate that from 1 to 10. For example, a 10. Hanging out with old drinking friends. The trigger response from 1 to 10 would be a 10, for example. Driving by the liquor store where you bought before. It could be an 8. or whatever you decide to put down for that for year 1 to 10. Dancing in a nightclub, that could be a 3 or whatever you decide to make it. Holidays, that could be a big one, a 10. Let's talk about urges. Identifying your urges or your triggers is an important part of your recovery. Awareness gives you the power to understand and deal with urges. However, even with awareness and planning, you will experience urges. It's normal and natural part of recovery. An awareness and an understanding of urges is crucial to your recovery. You identify what triggers them, but do you know how long they last? How intense they are? How frequent they are? Most people with addictive behaviors don't realize that urges usually last only seconds to minutes and then pass. One way to understand your urges is by recording them on an urge log. So let's describe what an urge log is. An urge log in figure 4.1 in the 4.4 in the handbook is a table which you record specific information about your urges. After a few entries, you may notice patterns and similarities about your urges. The urge log then becomes a roadmap that will help you anticipate situations and emotions that may trigger urges. You also may notice certain thought patterns associated with urges, which are helpful in self-management and problem solving. You may find that you can create an urge log in your journal if you're keeping one. If you're not, use the figure 4.4 in the handbook, or you can find one on the Smart Recovery website. Keep it with you so you can immediately log each urge before you forget it. At first, you may need to write it in as many times a day. When you identify urges, triggers by certain times, places, or situations that you encounter regularly, you can plan ways to avoid those triggers or distract yourself from those urges until it passes. Here's an example of an urge log. As we said, you can find this on the website and also in the handbook. So what you're going to do is you're going to put the time of day, then the time, and then you're going to rate it from 1 to 10. The length the urge lasted, say 2 minutes. What triggered your urge? You were having lunch at a wine bar. Who were you with? You were with friends. How you coped with it? You told them, and then you forgot about it pretty quickly. Alternative activities to substitute behavior. You avoided having lunch there again. I hope this was helpful, everybody.